Hello there. Thanks for taking the time to click on this video. And if you clicked on this video, you want to start fishing your most favorite river in your state and you're wondering, where do I find the trout? Now I'm going to give you some pointers on how to do just that. Right, you do want to pay attention and kind of think like a fish. Where would I want to be if I was a fish in the river? A, you want to be in and around structure. One of the biggest areas that fish love to congregate is in and around structure, whether it's a big log, a giant rock, a brushy overhang, things like that. Trout will hang out in those areas because they feel safe from predators. So if you see any type of structure underwater or against the bank, target those areas, and a lot of times there'll be a fish sitting right next to that structure. Next, fish don't want to exude a lot of energy. One of the cool things about fishing a really rocky river like this is those pockets that are behind those rocks and sometimes in front, the pillows, fish will hang around those areas because it doesn't take a lot of effort to stay next to the bottom because that rock is deflecting the current. Often you will find fish hiding behind rocks, right up against the rocks, and also you can kind of look at the rock and you'll see a tail out that happens well behind the rock. That is really easy current for the fish to swim in, so they'll be a lot of times several feet behind that rock as well. Great example right over my shoulder. There is shallow water that dives into a deeper pool. It's like a plunge pool. Fish will hang out right at the edge of that plunge pool. So often I'll throw my nymph set up above it and let it fall off the edge, and the fish will be right there picking them off. Again, they're kind of behind and below that ridge because the faster current is going above their heads. They're down in much easier swimming currents. So you'll find fish in these type of settings. Anytime that you can see a coloration of the river go from where you can see the bottom into a deep green or a deep emerald, that's a plunge pool. A lot of times you'll find fish hanging out right at the edge of that plunge pool. Next is if you have a rushing water that flows into a section of river and then slows down and kind of as tails out. That is great holding water for trout, and that could be really good nymphing water as well. So you'll want to target those areas. Sometimes I'll go right where the fast current flows in and fish that inside seam, right between the transition of the slow current and fast current. A lot of times the fish will be hanging out right there, and further down into the tail out, it just gets better and better as the water slows down. Again, remember, trout don't want to spend a lot of time swimming. They want things easy, right? They don't want to expend a ton of energy. So be looking in those areas for trout. Now during the summer and dry fly hatches, tough to get to, but trout will be hanging out under trees. And the reason why they're hanging out under trees is because they're waiting for bugs to fall off the branches and into the water. And that's where you're going to need to learn the bow and arrow cast. It's a great cast to learn, especially if you're fishing off the shore and need to bring a fly underneath the tree. There are some very large trout underneath those trees waiting for things to fall down. So underneath structure on rivers, especially trees, can be very productive for catching trout. Now, trout can be anywhere in a river, right? But there are certain areas that they like to congregate, so I would always target those areas. I love seeing rocky bottoms, right? If you have a real smooth bottom with a lot of small rocks, chances are you're not going to have a trout holding there because there just isn't enough protection. They don't feel very safe just sitting on a flat rocky bottom like that. So if you have bigger rocks underneath there, that's a great place. I caught a steelhead last year. There was an embankment, a ton of rocks and jagged rocks on the edge of that embankment, and almost like a trough that was deeper than any other part of the river, and then it tailed up shallow to where I was standing. So I threw my egg fly right in that trough, and sure enough, I caught a beautiful steelhead on an egg fly because I just knew there had to have been a fish sitting in that area. So be sure to target those areas. And remember, there's a key thing to remember when fishing for trout, is don't bomb it out to that spot that looks really good across the river. Walk the fly out. I can't tell you how many times in the past I walked up and just almost stepped on a fish because they were right by my feet. So I got to remind myself too, when I go river fishing, walk the fly out, starting close, fish that nice seam that's in close and slower water, and slowly work your fly out to make sure you cover all bases. A lot of times that fish is right up close. All right, well, hope that helps you the next time you're out there fly fishing. And if you need a little help with your cast, check out this video right here. 8 minutes, and I promise you, you'll cast that fly rod a little bit better than you are today. All right, everybody, until the next time, fish on.